Trishana McGowan. First of all, welcome to Crosstalk. It's an absolute pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. Big up to the BIM family.
Yeah, let's jump straight into it, and not necessarily you yourself just yet, because you were on your way from somewhere, and something special happened with those women that you were on your way from a little meeting discussion with the Reggae Girlz of Jamaica. Yeah. First time getting into the knockout stages of the World Cup. What was that feeling like for you?
Oh my God. First of all, I'm a Gladys. You know, Caribbean terms, and they say you're just excited, so you're overly excited. I'm very, very excited about whenever our Jamaican athletes do well. And the Reggae Girlz fall, they land right in that bracket. I was their press officer last year on two of their trips to the Caribbean when we went to Cayman Islands and Grenada. And just being a part of that whole trip, I got another perspective about the team. And so you become a part of the family. So, when they qualified, and then when I looked at the group, I also made a report during one of my during work, and I was like, I'm hoping that they said up the ball is round. Is it just a cliche, or will it be that moment for us and we can advance to the round of 16? And I thought that, just evaluating the group, if we were to pull everything together, they just might be able to do that. And they've always showed that they're resilient, and they did that. So like Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean people, I was overjoyed. I didn't know what to do with myself. I was like, oh my God, we did it. And the fact that they were able to, again, like I said, just adding to how resilient they are, and just how talented the women are as well. It's one thing to be resilient, because most of us can be. But, just putting everything has to come together. And I think it did at the perfect moment for them. And I'm just happy that we were able to achieve that as a country, but also for the region.
Yeah, indeed, for the region, because whenever there's success for any Caribbean team, whether or not it's, let's say, ball, whatever, track and field, you begin to gravitate, you support home first, say, okay, well, if I have a member in this race, okay, that is me. If I don't, then I go to somebody else in the Caribbean in terms of support. And that leads me now into what I was actually going to have as my very first question for you, which is, what would you say is the recipe? Because I'm flipping it now towards the track and field side of things, which is, a little closer to home for you. What is the recipe? Because I'm asking on the rest of the Caribbean's behalf for Jamaica's track and field success.
The recipe, I think, is we are rich in talent, and that's just the truth. We're rich in talent. And I think the first thing that we learn to do outside of creeping and then, walking, the minute a child is able to stand on their own, they look at how what's their next move. The minute they can stand on their own and the coordination comes together for them walking, they run off. And then everybody just start running around. It's just that some are more talented than some. Some talent is nurtured at an earlier stage than some. And I think that for us, we are big on sports. We are big on sports, and it's not just track and field, just that it might be a little bit easier to venture into track and field because it's so individualized versus a group sport where you're selected by, you're good at football, you're good at cricket, but you have to be selected to be a part of a team versus track and field. It's individualized, like I said. So the first thing is, I think that, we are so blessed and rich in talent, and there's no other way to put it. And the next thing that helps is we have good coaches. We have good coaches who they love to coach. I like to applaud GC Foster College. I think what GC Foster College foster through coaching and even talent, for sports is rich, and it has shown in the growth within our track and field, but just overall sports on the island.
Well, you yourself have been privileged to sit on both sides of the coaches in terms of wants as an athlete. I know on the other side of it, in terms of interacting and having those conversations. I'm going to focus a little more on the latter side, being, as a sports journalist. What do you enjoy most about the journey that you've had so far? Because it's been an interesting one for you, and I'm going to touch on that a little bit. What have you enjoyed most about this journey as a sports journalist?
Oh my God. It's easy telling the stories of coaches and athletes, especially the athletes. I promised myself that I would do a better job going forward of opening a space for coaches, because their stories are just as compelling. They too suffer from mental health struggles. They too make up all of the excitement that we watch. It's so easy to dispose of them versus disposing of the athletes. So their stories are just as important. But for me, telling the stories brings me the most joy, because I think that, like any other person, there's a story to tell. Some choose not to tell their stories. Some are not able to tell their stories. Some don't know that they want their stories to be told. So it varies. So for me, the greatest joy, it's telling the stories.
And talking about those stories, let's dive now into your story. Mm-hmm. You had a journey whereby, I guess, you were on a path for several years, and I was looking back at some articles, etc., and it was a case of you weren't necessarily collecting the quote-unquote medals that you reckoned should have been there, but then, hey, you were named Sports Journalist of the Year. I think it was 2021 or 2020. Which year was that? It was 2020?
2020.
2020. Yeah, and like that was definitely a highlight for you, a moment of being on top of the podium and say, hey, I belong in this industry. I've done the hard work. I'm here. But has it gotten easier for you after getting that award, or has it gotten harder for you?
Oh, wow. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Whoa. You see, why you love cricket, you're bowling, you're bowling good. Gotten easier. I don't even know to answer that, because I think that with sports, you see, the thing is, I see my life, and I see life in general through the lens of sports. You win, it never gets easier. It never gets easier. People think it does. Easier in the sense of, okay, my work become a little bit more trusted, but it was always trusted before. But it's like solidifying that, yeah, man, no surprise about the quality work that you can do. But harder, because it's, for me, winning isn't receiving an award. It's more than that. Winning for me is to be able to continue to have the trust of the athletes, the trust of the coaches. And it has gotten easier for me in the sense of, yes, they trust me, but harder in, no, how do I continue to tell their story without, making it about me? Because I think it can be a little bit of that. And I don't want it to be that. I want it to always be about telling their stories, having the best output. Because what people don't understand about Jamaica and the Caribbean is that we're not big like America. We're not big like Europe. We tell the stories. We will have controversies. It's just knowing how best to combine those and putting them out. And what we put out about athletes and coaches are very important. We're more than just a scoreline. What sells in America? It isn't just, LeBron is a big deal. Kobe Bryant is a big deal. But what is Kobe remembered for? Yes, winning, but his mentality. When you look at the memes across social media, yes, they talk about how successful he was, but we draw so much about what he said in those moments, in those post-match conferences and so on and so forth. So for me, it's always wanting to give our athletes and our coaches the similar platform to share, what they're thinking. How do they process? How do they achieve this in that moment? So it has gotten harder, like I said, in the sense of I am putting pressure on myself to level up. So what I did a couple of years ago and helped me to win that award, I have to intertwine that aspect as well as elevating, because sports requires that. You have to elevate in order to keep winning or staying at the top. And I like staying at the top.
Well, you're certainly there. Like I said, like I follow the journey. I say, yeah, I like that. All right, I could maybe, intertwine that into my career as well here and there. But you talked a little bit about moments that you're able to capture, moments that are captured as a sports journalist in terms of telling these stories. What are some of these stories that stand out for you on this journey that you say, hey, I am happy that I was able to learn about that moment and share that moment?
Oh gosh, so many. So many, and there are those that I when I put on my YouTube channel or on my Instagram page, that this as well. You have to, not because it is said to you, sometimes mean you should put it out for more reasons than one. But what I'll say is, it's how the place where they're yearning from for success. And also, again, I said it to you and I'm going to say it again. For many people, for many athletes, for many coaches, the success isn't the medal, it isn't the trophies. But if you're not in it, while sports is result-based and requires you to win, there's so much more as to why they're doing it. And for me, hearing the why all the time, make me go, wow, like, yeah, I can see that. But if people are not deep into sports, all they think about is, oh, they didn't win. Oh, he's not a winner. Oh, she's not a winner. It's deeper than that. But like I said, you have to be in it to understand. And I think for me, when I interviewed Melaine Walker, she's a friend of mine. But during that moment, when I interviewed her, she said so many things that, hit me. She said, why is it that, people want to dictate what an athlete should do or when they should retire? She said people just start running or playing basketball or doing a sport on their time. It just don't be that, they're talented and they go on to, become world beaters, they achieve Olympic medals, big titles. But why is it that they're forced to retire from something that they love? And I think that, it might not make sense, but it makes sense because we see politicians, for example, worldwide. If you check a lot of the ages of these politicians, they're still in parliament. People are still showing up to regular jobs and they're of a particular age, 65 plus. Why is it that athletes have to, walk away because they're no longer winning? I feel like if an athlete chooses to, still compete because they want to, that should be fine. Why is it seen as them ruining a legacy? For them, they're doing it because that's what makes them happy. So it's not, again, the success for them isn't only about a medal or winning an Olympic or a world championship or NBA title or, winning the ICC or the T20 tournament. It's bigger than that. And I think a lot of athletes, if you're to check them who have retired, just a baby, the body is fatigued. But if they could compete without having to think about a legacy, then maybe still would be doing it. You never know, because that's what they love. Your people are into things. They work at a job because they love it. They're a lawyer because they love it. They're a doctor because they love it. They're not thinking, oh, I'm 65 now, I should maybe stop being a doctor. Who determines that? So I think for me, that was one of the things that jumped out. And the next big thing that jumped out to me, and I've used that ever since, Stephen Francis, head coach of the world's best track and field athletes, if we're being honest, Asapa Powell, Shelley and Fraser Price, Elaine Thompson era, we can go on and on with the list, Sharika Jackson. And he said, I asked him, I said, how do you know, how do you grade yourself, in other words? And he said, I just think that I never get it right. Even when they have won, I think I never get it right. So that allows me to go back to to revisit things all the time and work harder. Because people don't understand, Joel, that you see an athlete cross the line, they win, but did they get the time that they want? To them, yeah, I have the gold medal, but deep down, they just might be looking for a particular time that they did not get. So a part of them is feeling unfulfilled, but to the world, yeah, you're a big deal. But part of them is like, no, I didn't achieve something that I want to achieve. Again, that is not a tangible achievement. That's not tangible success. So I think that stood out to me, like, for Stephen Francis to say, boy, I'm a gold medalist. I have world beaters over and over in so many different events. I think that I don't get it right. No, who am I? So, I keep that in the back of my mind. So even when people applaud my work, I love it. Thank you so much. I am really happy as a woman in the business that people are paying attention to what I'm doing, because people want to pretend as if it's not hard for women anymore in sports journalism. It is hard. But for me, I think that I never yet get it right, even when I've gotten it right. So there are aspects of my job that I will put out, whether through television, radio, and even on my social media platforms and YouTube channel, And I will go to my team and be like, I love this part, but I didn't like that part. And then they'll say, oh, I like that. So everything is a continuous work in progress. And it's a process. And I think that if you do the right things continuously, results will come.
Oh, for sure. They definitely will. It's all about that consistency aspect of things.
Yeah.
You said something that I kind of want to touch on. I wasn't necessarily going to, but I guess for me, as a male in the sports journalism space, I wouldn't necessarily experience everything that you experience. You talked about challenges as a woman in the space. What would you say that the challenges are for you, as in when you were getting to it, and the challenges that you face now that you're established still and you're still, looking to grow in the industry?
I think that when I started, it was always a question of, she might know, but I don't know if she'll know how to deliver it. Mm-hmm. And one of the things is this, I think that people think that former athletes, because you're a former athlete in a sport, it automatically makes you a good, matriculating to being a good sports journalist or a good analyst or commentator. It doesn't. And that's just the sad reality. And I think when I came into the space, of course, there would have been doubts about, does she know enough? And can she deliver what she knows? So it was just a case of, putting that together to where I'm at now. And I tell people that I went to an all-girls school. And if you know anything about women, especially teenage girls, you have to have thick skin. Oh, we can be very unkind. So I went to an all-girls school. I did sports until I was 26 or 27 years old. So I am used to constructive criticism as well as criticism. Mm-hmm. So when I started, of course, like I said, there would have been doubts, but that's fine. That's all a part of the process. It's never for me to prove anybody wrong or right. It's for me to always be doing better. And I take mindset of my, like I said, I can't dismiss who I am, as a former athlete. And so the challenges then are still the challenges now, in terms of, even though I'm established and again, trusted work, you still have those who will think that you're not good enough to be in a space. It's not because they think you don't know, but because I'm a woman. And because sometimes other women would have been given an opportunity and they may be blundered. So I do suffer, maybe for those who would have been before, or those who are still, very active and not doing a good job. So for me, whenever I get into a position of doing a gig, I treat it like an audition, even when I'm there, even when it is mine, even when the job is mine, I treat it like an audition at all times, because it's not auditioning just for myself to keep it and do better each time, but for the next woman or girl who will come and want to occupy that space, because you have to make space and create space for those to come. So it's always going to be, is she good enough? Even when they know you're good enough. So for me, I don't think, and that's not just for me, that's women in sports overall, just that some wish not to talk about it. And that's also very fine. You're always going to be second guessed. And like I said, it's not that they don't trust you, but because some would have had bad experiences before that, make them go, but when we did have so and so, she never do a good job. So for you stepping into the space, you just have that bit of a cloud over your head. Now, for me, when I step into the space, I make sure at all times I do a good job. And I know when I do a good job, I feel it. At this point of my career, it's a feeling, and I trust myself, and I want to do good. So I don't just rely on my team to say, oh, you didn't do a good job. And I can also tell some of the areas that I might not have done good in, but then again, I rely on my team to say, yo, you shouldn't have asked the question there, or you shouldn't have do that. And I'm good with all of that. I don't see it as, oh, they don't like me. I can't help that. I can't have no control over who like me and don't like me. So I focus on the elements of my job that I have to do, and I focus just on that. So like I said, the clouds when I started are still the clouds now. Just that even though I'm trusted, it's really not just about me. It's for the other women that, like I said, maybe would have been. And it's not just in Jamaica or the Caribbean. It's just overall when maybe the men watching the landscape or other women They maybe didn't do as good. So you find that people are becoming like tentative. But then, when I get the opportunity, I make the best of it and get the round of applause. And I know that, okay, well, that is good. Another woman will be trusted based on the work I would have done.
It's interesting you mentioned that. And it kind of takes my mind back to, I was doing my little Googling scenarios, prep for today. And there was a photo posted on Facebook. It was when you were working back at one of the television stations. And one of your guests handed you a journal. And the caption on this photo, on this journal, was that it's for you to document you jumping over the next hurdle of your life. And I want to take you towards lessons that you've learned on this journey, lessons that you've said, hey, I'm putting this down in whether or not it's that same job, I'm writing this down as a lesson that I'm learning on this path. Mm-hmm. And what are some of the lessons that have come through for you on this journey as a sports journalist and as a woman growing in the industry?
Oh, lessons. There's so many. The first thing is you have to know who you are. You can't be moved by every criticism. And you have to also differentiate between constructive criticism and people just not liking it. And again, that's easy for me to decipher because I did sports. So for me, I know I use my sports background. I did track for so long and I did hurdles. You go to training Monday to Saturday for a reason, because even though you know what you're doing, there are still things you haven't perfected. How are we going to get there? So that you can go on to get the medals at the Olympic Games, the World Championships, the boys and girls champs that we have, whatever it is. You have to show up to training. You have to do your part. While you're doing your part, that's why you have a coach. You can't do it alone. So the lessons I've learned is to differentiate at all times whenever you hear the comments and the applause. Are they constructive criticism? Are they constructive criticism? Or just people not liking you? And the minute I've done that, I've always been solid. So I'm not wavered or crumbling inside or going home crying, oh my God, no, I don't do all of that. I stand solid with who I am. I know who I am, and I trust myself. The second thing is, again, I treat all my jobs the same. I treat them like an audition, and I believe that I'm in the space for a moment. So, I don't take, people get so offended when they're removed from a space or whatever it is. I can't tell others how to feel, but for me, I just felt like that was my moment and I hope I made best of it. So I am grateful for all my opportunities. Because like I said, I see them as audition and like, yeah, I get the job. I get my time to do what I have to do. I shine. If next season or tomorrow they no longer need me, I'm good with that. I just wanted to make sure that when I was in it, I did my part. And I think that I have done a better job at doing my part. So whenever I'm removed or asked to no longer be in a space, it cannot be said, Joel, it cannot be said, I did not do my part. Let it be a case where you want to have a new talent or something, but it cannot be, I didn't do my part. I do my part and I know I do it well. Because like now I'm doing boxing. I love boxing, but I've delved deeper into it. I've watched Sky Sports boxing. I've done, the whole YouTube boxing. And stuff like that. So, like I said, I do my part. So it's never a case where it can be said I don't do my part. And the third lesson is enjoy the moment. Enjoy the moment. Have to enjoy the moment because sports come and go so quickly. I can't even say that with a straight face. It come and go so quickly. Like, didn't we just had World Championship? Here we are, athletes are now posting back in training, getting ready for the Olympic Games. Cricket, the CPL just concluded. Players are all over the place now, playing in World Cup. So you have to enjoy the moment while doing the work because it come and goes so quickly. So I'm doing a better job at that because the job is consuming. You know this. It is consuming, but I'm finding ways how to balance it out because I don't believe in, we I think in the Caribbean, in Jamaica and the Caribbean, you grow up in sometimes strict households that you're just so focused on the task that you don't enjoy it. So I'm learning how to enjoy it while being a professional and being a professional. And I've been having a whale of a time. Let me tell you, I've been doing it. Yeah, I've been enjoying, and with that, it helps me to pour even better into my job.
Yeah, as we come towards the end of our chat, I see a timer coming up saying 8 minutes, 30 seconds left on the recording. But yeah, as we come to the end of our chat, I want to take you back to something you said a little earlier in terms of creating a space for those to come. And I know that a lot of your work is with a lot of young future talents across several sports. What is it like just engaging with them and knowing that they're so young and green in a sense, you know, like what do you really like attempt to pour into them in those moments that you get?
The thing is, I've always believed that it can be tough to speak to athletes and entertainers when they're in their prime, right? Because they're caught up with the moment and what people say as the hype. And it's just always to have a solid team around them. You know, you have to curate your space at an early stage. And I think it's different now versus then. So nobody can come now, Joel, and I say, oh, I didn't know this. Nah. Things are different. The social media, the internet, the phones, everything is an entirely different ball game from the early 2000s. So I think what I've always said to those who will listen, curate your space, have a solid team. And the team doesn't have to be a paying team only. It comes down to the friendships. Everything has to be solid and trusted. I have my space that I've curated. They're so honest that sometimes I have to be like, yo, I'm your friend. Like, you know, but I'm happy to have that, because I know that when I do a job, if my hair out of place, if I said something that I shouldn't have said, I'm told, and that makes me feel so good, because then the next time around, I'm going to fix it. And there are errors in our job, there are errors, and there are always going to be errors because it's sports. That's why you do it. They treat it like a season. So this season, I think I've been good. And the season isn't finished as yet. The season comes, December 31st. And I will look to fix things as I go along. So I always, guide them like, just curate your space. Have a solid team, whether it be boyfriend, girlfriend, mommy, daddy, coach. They have to be honest and solid. They have to be honest. They have to be honest, because you will need that. If they're not honest, because sometimes you'll be going downhill. Sometimes you will say or do something in a project that it just don't make sense. You will be live on air and you say something you shouldn't have said. And that's okay. But you know that when the opportunity should present itself again, you won't make that mistake, because you realize the mistake, as well as those in your space would have realized, say, oh, they did error. Don't do that again. And I think that's the most important thing. Having a very solid curated space is very important for the success that you're looking for.
Well, Trishana, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you, and have yourself a fantastic day.
You too, Joel. Thanks for talking to me, and I hope you have a good one. All the best.
Thanks a lot.